Touchdown now. Everybody drop your weapons! No!
The story begins on a cold day at Occoquan Park, Maryland. A man sits alone on a bench watching a car while an elderly man plays with his dog. From inside the car, a second man observes the old man. He suddenly shouts, calling the elderly man over. The old man is Congressman Phil Hammersley, and he approaches the car. The two men, Thomas Reynolds and Hammersley, talk. As the U.S. Congress moves forward with a new bill that expands intelligence agencies' surveillance powers, Hammersley stands firm against it. He believes the bill violates citizens' privacy rights and isn't worth the sacrifice. Thomas, who works for the National Security Agency, NSA, tries to convince him to support the bill, even offering him equal funding, but Hammersley refuses. Thomas, however, won't take no for an answer and resorts to blackmail to make sure the bill passes. Thomas, determined to get the legislation passed, decides to have Hammersley killed. He uses a medical substance to induce a heart attack, staging the congressman's death as a car accident. NSA agents David Parkat and Lauren Hicks carry out the assassination. Meanwhile, at Silverberg and Blake Law Office, attorneys discuss the pressure they're facing from management to sign a contract that benefits the mob. Eddie offers to call his goons to deal with the mob, but labor lawyer Robert Clayton Dean enters the room. He tells the attorneys they shouldn't be involved in illegal activities and promises to take care of the situation. The attorneys explain that they were attacked 2 nights ago by Italian-American mobsters, known as the Guidos, who beat up one of them while they were at a bar. Larry, one of the attorneys, followed the goons but ended up in the hospital with a broken jaw and ruptured kidney. The attorneys want to know if this will lead to a criminal investigation. Robert Dean reassures them, promising to handle the situation and protect them from the mob. He also instructs his assistant, Julie, to send flowers and a case of Chianti to Larry and his wife, Brenda, as a gesture of support. Dean now takes on their case and prepares to confront the mobsters. Robert, a seasoned labor lawyer, works on a case involving Paulie Pintero, a mob boss who controls the union. Pintero has been forcing union workers to sign a contract that benefits the mob rather than the workers. Robert often works with an unknown surveillance expert named Brill, who helps him gather evidence. Robert has never met Brill in person and only communicates through his ex-girlfriend, Rachel Banks. Rachel gives Robert a videotape that implicates Pintero in a parole violation. Pintero had been prohibited from meeting with union officials, but the video shows him doing just that. Rachel warns Robert that the area where the video was shot is under FBI surveillance, but Robert is determined to use it to his advantage. He questions Rachel about meeting Brill, but she informs him that he will never meet him face-to-face. Brill's fees vary with the risk involved, and Rachel takes a 15% commission. Robert is concerned about breaking the law, but Rachel reassures him that she will ensure he stays within the boundaries. Robert heads to Pintero's social club where he confronts the mob boss with the incriminating video. Robert threatens Pintero with the tape, insisting that the union workers be allowed to vote on the contract. Pintero, enraged, demands to know who made the tape. Robert, however, claims he doesn't know, which is the truth. Pintero refuses to believe that Robert could have obtained the tape without knowing who made it, and threatens to kill him if he doesn't find out. Robert's car is later photographed by the FBI, as they are keeping an eye on Pintero and his goons. At Occoquan Park, the police discover the drowned car of Congressman Hammersley, who had opposed the new surveillance bill. Thomas and his team are unaware that a wildlife researcher named Daniel Zavitz had captured the entire murder on video. Zavitz, aware of the crime, tries to alert an underground journalist by transferring the video to a computer disk. When Thomas and his team learn of the footage, they send agents to retrieve the tape. They track Zavitz to a remote location, but he manages to escape, running into Robert Dean in an underwear shop. Zavitz secretly passes the disc to Robert without his knowledge. As Zavitz flees, he is hit by a fire truck and killed. The NSA agents, unable to find the disc on Zavitz's body, discover Robert's business card, which Zavitz had kept in his pocket. Upon learning of Zavitz's death, Robert is devastated. Meanwhile, Thomas orders his men to track down Robert and discover what he knows. Later, Robert arrives home to find his kids playing, but his wife, Carla, tells him about an interview with Sam Albert, who is promoting the surveillance bill. Carla is uneasy about the idea of violating people's privacy, and Robert reflects on his friend Zavitz's tragic death. Meanwhile, Thomas learns that Zavitz and the journalist who had the video footage are both dead. The tape that Thomas thought was destroyed turns out to be a copy, and he suspects that the original is in Robert Dean's possession. The NSA now begins investigating Robert Dean's involvement in the case. Reynolds' team is on the hunt for Robert Dean, a man they believe is withholding vital information. Disguised as police officers, they visit him, but Dean refuses to allow them to search his home without a warrant. This refusal causes the agents to wrongly assume that Dean is hiding something. Believing they've hit a dead end, the NSA breaks into Dean's home while he and his family are away. They plant bugs in his belongings and personal items, but still cannot locate the crucial video they're after. Desperate, the NSA decides to falsely accuse Dean of passing classified information to his ex-girlfriend, Rachel Banks. They also plant false evidence that Dean is laundering money for Pintero and having an affair with Rachel. This scheme destroys Dean's life. He is fired from his job, his bank accounts are frozen, and his briefcase is stolen. His wife, believing the lies, throws him out of the house. Dean is relentlessly followed by the NSA, who tracks his every move. In a desperate attempt to clear his name, Dean meets with Rachel, but she is furious with him for ruining her life. She reluctantly agrees to reveal some information, but warns him that Brill, the mysterious person behind this plot, will retaliate if he keeps asking. Despite her warnings, Dean continues to push for answers, which leads to a dangerous encounter. Rachel arranges a meeting with someone posing as Brill, but when Dean realizes that the person isn't the real Brill, he narrowly escapes. In the chaos, Dean is helped by Edward Lyle, a retired NSA agent who takes him to safety and removes most of the tracking devices on him. Although Dean doesn't know Lyle, the retired agent explains that the NSA is still tracking him. He urges Dean to remove the remaining devices, but Dean is confused as he doesn't know where they are. Lyle warns Dean to stay away from Rachel and tells him that continuing to get involved will only put both of them in danger. Dean attempts to remove the last tracking device by entering a random room in a building, but in the process, the NSA continues to track him from above. Lyle warns Dean that the NSA is constantly watching, even from satellites. Despite his warnings, Dean meets with his family again. He explains to his wife, Carla, that he hasn't cheated on her and that he is being framed. Dean and his nanny take the kids and drive away, but when Dean checks the disc he's been handed, he finds it broken. Shocked, he later arrives at Rachel's apartment, only to discover she has been murdered. Grieving, he turns to Lyle for help again. Lyle is furious when Dean calls him, since he had specifically warned him to stay away from the situation. After hearing about Rachel's death, Lyle reluctantly agrees to meet with Dean. Lyle examines the broken disc, and after reviewing its contents, learns that it contains evidence of a conspiracy involving the NSA. Dean then calls his secretary, only for the NSA to track their call. They quickly locate Dean and Lyle's location and attempt to track them to a hideout in South Baltimore. But Lyle and Dean are one step ahead, knowing the NSA is coming for them. In a tense moment, Lyle reveals the history between him and the NSA. He was once an expert in communications stationed in Iran before the revolution. When the revolution broke out, Lyle escaped, but his partner, Rachel's father, was killed. Since then, Lyle has been in hiding, employing Rachel as his secret courier. He tries to convince Dean to run away and leave everything behind, but Dean refuses. He wants to clear his name and make sure his family isn't destroyed by the lies. As they continue to evade capture, Lyle and Dean hatch a plan to expose the NSA. They blackmail Congressman Sam Albert by recording him having an affair with his aide and planting bugs in his office. They also deposit $140,000 into Reynolds' account, making it look like he's been paid to blackmail Albert. The plan is risky, but they know it's the only way to get the NSA's attention. When they set up a meeting with Reynolds to exchange the evidence, things don't go as planned. Reynolds' men ambush them, holding both Lyle and Dean at gunpoint. As the confrontation escalates, a firefight erupts, and several people are killed, including Pintero and most of Reynolds' agents. Lyle sends the FBI a live feed of the incident, triggering a raid on the restaurant where it all went down. In the chaos, Lyle and Dean manage to escape. The NSA soon learns of the cover-up and begins to investigate Reynolds. As the dust settles, Dean is cleared of all charges, and his name is finally restored. He reconciles with Carla, and they begin to rebuild their lives together. But Dean can't forget the people who helped him along the way. He receives a message from Lyle, who is now relaxing on an island, far from the chaos that once consumed their lives. The story concludes with Dean realizing that, despite everything he's been through, there's hope for a fresh start. The final twist reveals that Lyle's expertise in communications had been key to all of this. His role in uncovering the conspiracy and helping Dean was no coincidence. But, as the dust settles and the conspiracy is exposed, Lyle retreats into his new life, leaving Dean to rebuild his. Though Lyle's name is kept out of the official records, the truth of his actions has set Dean free, and you can feel free to click on my recaps on the right to continue your entertainment. Don't forget to subscribe for future uploads and grab your popcorn. Enjoy yourself and see you soon, my friend.